Hey folks, and welcome to Mind Litter's 10 Things You May Not Know About the 1985 John Hughes movie, Weird Science. Number 1. Weird Science stands out among John Hughes' usual teen films because of its wild embrace of sci-fi fantasy, while most of his other works focus on the emotional journeys of everyday adolescents grappling with relatable issues. This film instead injects a wild splash of the surreal by having two awkward teens literally create their dream girl through a computer. This blend of hormones, humor, and outlandish wish fulfillment was more playful and off-the-wall than Hughes' otherwise grounded comedies of the era. Hughes wrote the core outline script for the film in just 2 days. Known for his rapid writing style, he plunged into the notion with a whirlwind of creativity, much like the teenage frenzy of "what if we could build the perfect woman" concept that defines the movie. By the end of his brief but intense writing streak, the narrative's bones were formed, setting the stage for one of the most energetic and whimsical entries in his filmography. The title itself was borrowed from the 1950s EC Comics anthology, also named Weird Science, a classic sci-fi comic series renowned for its imaginative and sometimes twisted tales. Hughes took little more than the name from those pulpy pages, but the nod pays homage to the notion of madcap experiments and scientific wonders. In melding that retro sci-fi aura with the familiar world of suburban teen life, Hughes carved out a distinctive spot in 80s pop culture, creating a film as charmingly offbeat as its source of inspiration. Number 2. For the role of Lisa, Hughes needed someone who could embody both fantasy-level beauty and a warm, playful personality. He found that rare combination in Kelly LeBrock. Known at the time for her modeling career and memorable commercial work, she radiated both confidence and a certain mystique. That balance of glamour and approachability made her an ideal choice to portray Lisa, a creation meant to be every teenage boy's ultimate dream girl. Hughes first came across LeBrock's work through her notable print ads and Pantene commercials, which featured the now famous tagline, "Don't hate me because I'm beautiful." He saw in her not just a striking face, but a spark that suggested she could do more than simply pose as a fantasy figure. In a film already bursting with comedic chaos, he needed someone who could anchor the role with a sense of fun and mischief, and LeBrock's presence was a perfect fit. At the time, Weird Science marked only LeBrock's second big-screen appearance. She had previously debuted in The Woman in Red, 1984, and while that film showcased her comedic potential, Weird Science propelled her into the pop culture stardom. Suddenly, she wasn't just a magazine cover model or shampoo spokesperson, she had become an 80s icon, representing an otherworldly yet oddly down-to-earth embodiment of the dream woman. Number 3. John Hughes was known for trusting his actors to bring their own flair to his movies, and Weird Science is a great example of this. Rather than sticking to the outlining script, he encouraged the cast to try different lines and see what clicked. This open, playful environment on set often led to spontaneous dialogue and unexpected reactions that made the comedy feel more alive and authentic. A perfect illustration of this is the blues bar scene, where Anthony Michael Hall's character, Gary, drunkenly rambles in front of amused club patrons. Much of Hall's slurred speech and boisterous banter was improvised, with Hughes simply keeping the cameras rolling to capture every off-the-cuff moment. The genuine surprise and laughter from the other actors helped make that sequence a fan favorite. Another improvisational highlight was the motorcycle punks crashing the big party scene. Actors like Vernon Wells and Michael Berryman came up with snarling threats, snarky remarks, and wild physical gags on the fly. By giving them freedom to riff on their characters, Hughes ensured that the scene played out with raw energy and chaotic humor. That spontaneity, paired with the film's surreal premise, is a major reason Weird Science continues to stand out among 1980s teen comedies. Number 4. Anthony Michael Hall was handpicked for the role of Gary because Hughes recognized a spark in him during their earlier collaborations, 16 Candles and The Breakfast Club. Hughes wanted a lead who could play both anxious and goofy without missing a beat, and Hall had already proven he could balance humor with honesty. His boyish charm and knack for delivering off-kilter dialogue made him the perfect fit for a shy, nerdy teen suddenly thrown into a world of magical chaos. During filming, Hall's on-set chemistry with Ilan Mitchell-Smith and Kelly LeBrock further reinforced Hughes' belief that he was the right choice for the role. With a quick wit and fearless attitude toward improvisation, Hall helped create some of Weird Science's most memorable scenes. His comedic timing was such a central part of the film's success that it's hard to picture anyone else sliding into Gary's outlandish role. Despite their fruitful partnership, Weird Science ended up being Hall's last movie with Hughes. Afterward, he branched out, turning down roles in other Hughes-led projects to pursue broader horizons, including a spot on Saturday Night Live. While fans can only imagine what might have happened if they'd teamed up again, Hall's performance in Weird Science remains one of the signature highlights of his time working with Hughes. Number 5. Although Gary and Wyatt appear to be cruising around in fancy cars throughout the film, Anthony Michael Hall and Mitchell Smith didn't actually do any of the real driving themselves. Both actors were still under 18 at the time and didn't hold full driver's licenses yet. On set, various filmmaking tricks were used to make it look like they were driving the cars, including tow rigs, stunt drivers, and careful close-ups of the boys acting it out believably. The film features 3 particularly flashy rides that the teens are portrayed as piloting. Firstly, the sleek black 1984 Porsche 928S, which remains one of the movie's standout wish fulfillment elements. Later, Gary is shown being pursued by the cops in his bright red 1983 Ferrari Mondial QV, and Lisa's very fitting hot pink 1959 Cadillac Series 62 convertible for one of their nighttime joyrides. Although the actors never actually took the wheel for real, the cars themselves left a lasting impression. The boys depicted as driving themselves adds a humorous layer to the film, especially when you know the reality behind the scenes. It's one of those Hollywood illusions that perfectly fits the film's fantastical theme, with Lisa magically conjuring up the perfect vehicles just as she does everything else. In a movie that's all about making teenage dreams come true, the idea of cruising around in coveted high-end cars is a must for sure. Number 6. Hughes first took note of Ilan Mitchell Smith after seeing him in the 1984 film The Wildlife, a teen comedy drama written by Cameron Crowe. Even though Mitchell Smith's role wasn't a large one, his performance caught Hughes' eye. There was a quiet sincerity to the way he delivered his lines, something that hinted at a deeper emotional range hidden beneath a soft-spoken exterior. When Hughes met Mitchell Smith in person, he found that the young actor's personality lined up perfectly with the character he envisioned for Wyatt in his film. Mitchell Smith was thoughtful and reserved, yet possessed a subtle spark that suggested he could rise to the comedic challenges of the script. Plus, his background in ballet had given him a unique poise and discipline that intrigued Hughes, who valued actors willing to explore different shades of their characters. Casting Mitchell Smith balanced out Anthony Michael Hall's wilder energy as Gary, helping to create a complementary pair of best friends on screen. Where Hall's comedic riffs brought the laughs, Mitchell Smith's more earnest approach brought a sense of emotional grounding. In the end, it was that blend of natural warmth and hidden potential that convinced Hughes he'd found the right actor to bring Wyatt to life. Number 7. The wild destruction of Wyatt's house was accomplished mostly with practical effects and miniatures rather than computer-generated imagery. Because CGI was still in its early stages at the time, Hughes and his crew relied on more old-school movie magic, building partial sets and using clever camera tricks to make everything appear bigger and more chaotic. From simulating extreme wind bursts to a massive missile busting up through the house, it was a careful blend of full-scale stunts and smaller-scale miniature models with a touch of light CGI effects thrown in at times. The film's budget, around $7 to $8 million, which was more than most of Hughes' prior films, was heavily leveraged upon for the large-scale set pieces. One of the priciest sequences was the scene where the large missile rises up straight through the house's floors and roof. To pull it off, they used a custom-built prop missile and reinforced parts of the section set so it could appear to be smashing upwards without causing real danger to cast and crew. Miniature versions of the house were also created for certain shots, helping them emulate big mayhem without the risk of everything being full-scale. Location-wise, filming of the full-scale parts of this scene mainly took place in the Chicago suburbs, where John Hughes liked to shoot most of his teen movies. The exterior shots of Wyatt's house was a real neighborhood home, while many of the indoor catastrophe shots happened on carefully constructed soundstage sets. Mixing real locations with detailed set work, along with miniatures filling in the gaps, boosted the film's authenticity, while still giving the production team enough control to safely orchestrate all that delightful destruction. Number 8. One weekend, John Hughes and Anthony Michael Hall found themselves watching Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, together, and Hughes was struck by Vernon Wells' performance as the fearsome Wes. The character's wild, punk-inspired look and magnetic intensity stood out so vividly that Hughes decided he had to cast Wells for the brief but intense punk biker gang scene in his film. Hughes wasted no time and reached out to Wells and invited him to appear in Weird Science as the leader of the marauding motorcycle gang that crashes Wyatt's house party. True to form, Wells took on the role with that same towering presence, sporting a fierce costume not too different from his gear in Mad Max 2. It was a wink to the audience, letting them recognize the homage to his unforgettable road warrior persona. The result was one of the most memorable and hilarious cameos in film history. Surrounded by an all-out party gone wrong, Wells's over-the-top entrance perfectly captured Hughes' quirky vision, where a suburban teen comedy could suddenly turn into a post-apocalyptic showdown, if only for a moment. That single weekend viewing cemented an iconic crossover of sorts, bringing a dash of Mad Max-style grit into the heart of a zany 80s teen fantasy. Number 9. Keen-eyed Hughes film fans can spot nods to his other teen flicks of that time. Like many of his movies, it's set in the fictional suburb of Shermer, Illinois, which pops up repeatedly across his cinematic universe. You might notice hints of the same high school hallways, plus visual callbacks in the form of school logos and background extras who resemble characters from his other films. Hughes also loved reusing certain motifs and even some real-life filming locations around the Chicago suburbs. For instance, Northbrook, his hometown, often doubled as Shermer in titles like The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles. By planting weird science in these familiar spots, he created a sense that all these teen adventures happen in the same big, interconnected teenage world. Subtle Easter eggs in set dressing and dialogue that tie in intended references, whether it's a mention of dances or run-ins with bullies, Hughes sprinkles winks to his broader teen universe, per se. Characters don't explicitly cross over from film to film, but the collective style, iconic high schools, suburban angst, and comedic hijinks, forms a continuous thread throughout his beloved 80s teen films catalog. Number 10. Bill Paxton's outrageous turn as Wyatt's jerky big brother Chet wasn't just a scene stealer, it served as a breakout comedic role that revealed his knack for over-the-top humor. Fans had already seen him in smaller parts of other films, but playing Chet gave Paxton free rein to be as loud, rude, and downright obnoxious as he wanted. His insults and one-liners, many of which he made up on the spot, became some of the movie's most quoted moments. Thanks to the improvisational atmosphere on Hughes' set, Paxton had a blast inventing crude put-downs and delivering them with manic glee. Cast and crew members often recall struggling not to crack up whenever he unleashed another unhinged rant. Paxton's willingness to push the boundaries not only added an extra punch of energy to the final cut, but also paved the way for future comedic roles down the line. Towards the conclusion of the film, Chet's transformation into a grotesque toad-like heap of poo creature took Paxton's performance to a bizarre new level. This puppeted creation was built and remotely operated by a team of practical effects artists who used animatronics and detailed makeup appliances to bring the mutant to life. Paxton couldn't do much but watch as his character was temporarily rendered into a slimy blob, yet even then, the twisted grin and signature Chet attitude somehow shone through that squishy, remote-controlled, nasty-looking exterior. Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks for watching, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like what you saw here. You guys are all great. See you next time.